So 10 years ago, the pilot of Talking Tom and Friends was released as a surprise drop around Christmas time. If you've not aged, just know that 2015 is a decade old now, and 2020 is now 5 years old. Welcome to the second half of the 2020s. Yes, time moves fast, and you may realize that before it's too late. Now, before we worry about that, let's talk about this show. This cartoon was a childhood favorite of mine, although somewhat of a taboo choice of one, since I was a Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network kid, but I wasn't that tuned into TV a lot as a kid unless they had one of my favorite cartoons on. But YouTube was an important place for my childhood when I was like 10 or 11. It was different from the others as it released episodes on YouTube weekly too. But however, the thing to note is that this was a long time ago. Tastes have changed. 10 years ago, I barely had much to devote my taste to. Sadly, Talking Tom and Friends was a bit ahead of its time. It started around when it was a bit more taboo to release something similar. Yet, it succeeded on YouTube. Many episodes have millions of views, with some even reaching 100 million. To actually dive into this show, the first season ran from 2014 to 2016. In other words, peak life. Since then, it has released 4 more seasons alongside 150 episodes in total. Since there are so many episodes, plenty good, plenty bad, it'll be hard to recommend something for people who haven't heard of this show. Especially since the show is mostly episodic, so I decided to choose a couple of episodes throughout the show which I think you guys should check out. Also, I'll try to not spoil any of these episodes or much of the show itself.
Now let me hear the lead-ins!
As I said, the show started in 2014, but in reality, the show itself started in 2015. The pilot episode was released 1 week before 2014 ended, and everything else released 2015 onwards. So I will just say it started in 2015. The show started airing on April 30th, 2015 with the episode Untalking Tom. Back then, the episodes were released bi-weekly instead of weekly as it is now, and the first episodes just had a different vibe than anything else. They felt more nostalgic and had a nice charm to it. And the perfect episode that I could showcase that is the episode Futuretron. It's only the 4th episode of the series, and personally it's top 10 good. The episode is about Tom and Ben creating a time machine somewhat. It's not like a literal time machine, although they do end up doing that later on in the series, but it's a screen to watch what happens in the future. The reason why is to find out what might end up happening in the future after a clone of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak get into an argument. The whole episode takes place in a setting or two being the garage and the auditorium. This as well as having focus on a few characters and a simple episodic premise which really made the episode work for me.
Wait, your name is Hank?
Yeah, except in Fred's where it's honk honk.
One of the best examples I can bring up is Parallel Universe, which has a bonkers concept but showcases its world building quite well, surprisingly enough. I feel like it's time to discuss the main cast a bit further. If you all play the games, you know Talking Tom is like the mascot. He's the main character, the main gear of the machine. To quote Ben himself, Tom is the mouth while he is the brains. Tom isn't shown to be smart or really a sympathetic character, but more of a leader. He is one that leads the show and brings the ideas to the open. And in this episode, both of those sides are shown as he has his dumber side trap him in the portal, but his more leader side is shown by the fact that he saves the main problem in the parallel universe. It's simple but effective. Then we have Talking Ben. He is the smart guy. He is the nerd. He does get made fun of it, but he is capable of doing what he dreams of, and he works day and night to create it. This is shown by the many inventions he has made. He also is shown to be quite serious with his business, as shown to yell when things don't go his way, and can be mad when his inventions are destroyed or held captive. Also, an extra detail I want to add, but you can consider it a headcanon, but I think Ben himself is probably autistic or neurodivergent. He's probably in the spectrum, as he has shown multiple symptoms in the series, including some I mentioned. Hank himself is lazy. He is always shown in front of the TV on the couch, as well as eating something like a cereal or something else. Despite that, he isn't a complete bum. He is shown to take care of others and try to be a good friend, especially with Ginger. As for Ginger though, he's the least deep. But despite that, He is shown to have a personality to what a 7-year-old would have. That's mostly it, although he can be a bit smarter than what people give him credit to be. Lastly, Angela. Angela herself is shown to be a little self-centered and is shown to have an anger issue in multiple episodes that she can break down quite easily. Despite that, she does have a more cheerful side with her. This is shown with her music and her dedication to Tom himself. This episode showcases that perfectly with how every character meshes well in a situation where everyone is a parallel, like both Tom and Ben, both Angela and Hank, and somehow Ginger with Ginger. Okay, this details makes this episode one of my personal favorites.
But I've hired a man to cry for me, so you'll all understand how much I miss my fish.
Season 2 was quite a big change as it had a big cliffhanger and many questions that haven't been resolved, which were mostly answered in its premiere. But Season 2 personally was a downgrade from Season 1, as some episodes were pretty boring and had very little going on. Especially the first leg. That first leg was quite weak. Despite that, the second leg does pick up and bring me probably my personal favorite or second favorite episode of the show, Fishy Business. This episode is how Hank befriends the CEO's fish in their time together, which is something I could probably relate to online, on friendships that seem perfect, but one or two things can end up fucking everything up, from either people or time itself. It's something I appreciate more when I became older, and it was something I wish I tapped in more in my ranking, but I am now. It's not perfect though, as one flaw I could say is the relationship is not the deepest, as well, Goldie couldn't talk. He is a fish after all, but it can still work as an animal story. But aside that, it also brings in some pretty funny moments and a really sweet ending despite the conflict. I don't think many people would have this episode as their favorite, but it would probably be mine. There was Season 3, which was a better Season 2. Not as good as Season 1, but it was still good with many good episodes, although a couple of stinkers too. My personal favorite of the season is the finale, but it's spoiler heavy for the whole show, so let's talk about Galactic Friends instead. One thing Season 3 exceeds is having really good ideas. Note, I said ideas, and not every idea is executed well, which is best shown on some of the weaker episodes like Tom the Brave, Big Nano Lie, and A Garage Affair. But when they hit, they hit! Shout out to Superhero Picnic, Mission Delete, and Hank versus the Vampires. The episode itself has a pretty memorable conflict and some I can relate to. It's pretty much on how Ben wants to contact an alien after many failed inventions because his self-esteem is quite low. Despite what ends up happening with Ben being quite egotistical, I can't lie, it does have a really sweet test. The twist makes the episode quite bittersweet, and it has a pretty sweet ending to it. And there's some really good jokes alongside one of my all-time favorite jokes from the show. So yeah, overall, really good episode. Definitely a must-watch if you really want to get into the show. And one last thing, this episode had Ben dabbing, so I definitely had to dock some points for that, but still, I'd still recommend it.
Loser, 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 loser.
Season 4 is kinda bumpy as studios change and the animation has received a full overhaul. This made the season look so different, for the better and for the worst. I'll say full front, the first 5 episodes are all pretty good, with 2 standouts, whereas Angela being the best season premiere of the show, and Ben's digital detox. Although it's not as funny as my other favorites, the episode makes it up with the writing. It pretty much is a ticking time bomb episode, as Tom has to protect an important piece of art from being stolen, and it's priceless. I didn't say it was void of jokes, by the way. Now, for a small spoiler in 3, 2, 1, the Season 3 finale, it was shown that Ben could not use technology, after he was responsible of the worlds colliding in the episode. And in the Season 4 premiere, he was given a bracelet after he tried to use technology, so he can't use it anymore without being zapped. This is actually important for the episode as it showcases how Ben could go through his technology-filled life without using technology, and goes through different hobbies. Things get worse as his rivals Mel and Flo plan to invade the house after Ben mentions the priceless painting. This led to honestly my favorite scene of the show. This episode succeeds as a character study for Ben and how someone like him could adapt in a different lifestyle without having to use the things he's familiar with, and trying to make the most out of it, alongside showcasing the positives of other hobbies and not being reliant on technology. And that's why I think this episode is the best of the show. I wouldn't say the episode is like the best thing ever, but it's definitely really good. It's really worth a watch, although I would suggest watching some of the previous episodes before watching this one though. Season 4's run ends in the episode right after, as the season itself takes a nosedive. What doesn't help, funnily and ironically enough, is how the best episode of the show and the worst episode of the show are literally 6 episodes apart. The episode Mr. Crate Empire is fucking dogshit, by the way. Most of the episodes right after the first mayor have all been quite mediocre, with some really bad ones. There are obvious exceptions like Hank's TV Party, Escape Impossible, and Good Girls Fall for Bad Boys, but the season itself is still quite bad, even with those saving graces. Season 5 though is even worse. I think it's the worst season. The writing takes a huge hit, as some stories either sound repetitive or aren't really that interesting, and the ones that are interesting fuck up in the execution. The animation looks much worse than it did in Season 4. The comedy is more of a miss. The inclusion of an ongoing antagonist with Roy wasn't a bad idea, but it was very poorly executed, as he seems more of an annoying burden, and some episodes get really bad. Even the saving graces aren't that good. The only episodes I can really say are pretty good are Beach in the Desert, Lullaby Monster, and Who is Billy. This season was just a miss. And it ended like that. It ended on a whimper.
World's greatest company. I'll put it with all the others.
In conclusion, I hope we have more discourse of the show itself. And I hope you guys can watch the show too. It's on YouTube and it's free, so you don't have to worry about using a streaming service or anything like that. And I also wanted to have something for the show's decades anniversary. And wow, I am old. But that said, this is the last Honky Tom and Friends related video I will ever make, at least for now. I don't have much else to say, and some of the other topics I had aren't really gonna happen anymore. I'm sorry, but I wanted to expand this channel more and have a bit more varieties, and I have plans for that. And the best way to do that is with my upcoming ranking video, which is coming very soon. That said, I'll see you guys later. Bye.